So I don't know what it is about NFL running backs, switching gears and stepping into the boxing ring. But obviously we had Frank Gore get wrecked by former NBA star Darren Williams. And then the latest, too, when Jake Paul's fight against Tyron Woodley, Le'Veon Bell was apparently perturbed by the choice of competition there. And he said on Twitter, Mark, I'm tired of watching him outbox people who don't even want to box. If he wants a boxing match, a real one, he'd fight me, period. Stop fighting small dudes who can't box. That is rich. I didn't know Le'Veon Bell was a boxer. So
yeah, I love that. He just asserted himself into the boxing thing. I mean, Frank Gore got rocked. And it's
absolutely
crazy.
Destroyed.
It's crazy. Darren Williams, you forget, and this is like a funny photo I saw last week when Steph Curry broke the all-time three-point record. I don't know if you saw that photo going around the internet. Myles Garrett was at the game, and Myles Garrett dapped up Steph Curry on the court. They stare each other eye to eye. Now,
which is crazy.
Myles Garrett is obviously much physically bigger, but that's when you start to realize, oh shit, these NBA guys, the small NBA guys are still really tall human beings. I mean, 6'3", 6'4", big dudes, not small dudes. And
we would be look like miniature, individuals if we were out there on the court.
You're 6'4", I'm 6'5". Yeah.
But comparatively, you look super tiny.
Yeah, we'd look like Steph Curry for sure. I mean, you know what I mean? Much fatter on my end, you much balder, but otherwise both much slower. But otherwise, we're basically Steph Curry. And it is crazy to think about. I mean, Darren Williams rocked it. But yeah, Le'Veon Bell, listen, I want to watch someone who can kick Jake Paul's ass. I'm not a Jake Paul guy.
Agreed.
I'm not a Logan Paul guy either. I think they're both just not good human beings. So I don't want to I'll never buy their pay-per-view. If it's on at a bar, I might go watch it. I'm not going to give my money to the Paul brothers. You know what I mean? I'll give my money. They got
enough of it anyway.
Fury. I'll give my money to Tyson Fury and to Deontay Wilder and to Anthony Joshua, the legit heavyweight boxers in the world right now who are all very, very talented. Watch them fight. I've always been a heavyweight boxing fan, but in the heavyweight boxing division is so good right now. Anthony Ruiz.
Yeah, it's swinging back to where it was in the heyday of boxing.
There was that guy who took out. I can't pronounce his name. It's the most incredible name I've ever seen on paper besides Giannis Antetokounmpo. This Polish guy who beat Anthony Joshua 2 months ago. That fight flew under the radar. But if Le'Veon Bell's the one who wants to do it, I will happily watch the highlights when they show up on Twitter after the fight. You know what I mean? I will happily do that. And I would love to watch someone try to kick Jake Paul's ass. That's for sure.
Well, look, Le'Veon Bell coming into the league was actually a super stocky running back. He was big for a running back. He was 6'2". He was 240.
I don't know how
coming out of the draft,
but I don't know if he's 6'2".
Yeah, but when after that first year with the Steelers, they made him slim down drastically. He doesn't strike me as the bulky type of fighter that'd be able to take on a Jake Paul. But I would love to be proven wrong in that aspect. But yeah, it's just interesting to see them throw themselves in the ring, especially, maybe just a month or so after getting cut. And it appears Le'Veon Bell's NFL career is over. This would be an opportunity for him to get in.
Jake Paul's 6'1".
Okay. Yeah. So, he's right there.
6'1", and he weight wise, they have him. I don't know.
It's got to be 220 maybe?
Something around there in the cruiserweight division. I'm not getting exact weight.
Yeah, so Le'Veon
190 pounds.
Really? Wow, that's
6'1", 190.
I feel like Le'Veon would have to cut even more down because he's probably 210 the last I checked. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that works. But either way, unless he's been taking boxing classes, there's a lot of people, and I'm not saying Le'Veon Bell is one of them, that think that boxing is literally just like fighting. Some people think, I'm strong and I can fight people. It's there's there's a reason these people are professionals. Like it's a very, specific process and, a very technical sport
Oh,
as
totally.
well.
And,
So
I will give Jake Paul credit. He is training now. 100% of what he does right now is just boxing training.
oh yeah.
And I mean, whatever YouTube content or whatever he does, but like that's what he is trying to do. He is trying to be the Conor McGregor of putting random dudes in a ring and kicking their butt and like beating B-list celebrities and other people who are considered boxers. Tommy Fury, the guy backed out when they had to fight him again, is kind of the same vein. I mean, his brother is the best fighter in the planet right now, Tyson Fury,
Sure.
but he's just, it's weird, but the NFL guys, I think, should stay out of the ring, especially after Frank Gore. Because NFL, anyone who you were like, someone could kick someone's ass, you'd be like Frank Gore, and he got rocked by Darren Williams.
Very true. Yeah, I actually thought he would have, done well, at least hold his own in that one. But yeah, that was an interesting way to see things play out. You just want NFL guys to play NFL football, and it for many games yesterday, Mark, it didn't seem like there was NFL football being played.
Lord,
God,
no. I don't know how much we're going to see tonight either.
Very true. I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we started the week off with all of the, COVID news. So some of the Saturday games getting moved, a Sunday game getting moved. So now we have 2 tonight on Monday and 2 Tuesday night as well. So still a few games to help decide things. But in terms of the playoff picture, Mark, not a whole lot should be fluctuating over the next 2 days.
No.
Outside of, some of the wild card hunts into those, maybe like 8 seeds, 9 seeds and stuff like that.
Well,
I mean, the Browns have a chance here too.
Well, the Browns and the Rams, they're the ones
those
you
are the two teams.
For. But even with the Arizona loss, and if the Rams win on Tuesday, they'll still be in the wild card. They'll still technically be tiebreakers, have Arizona still in the lead of the division, even though they'll have the same record at that point. They're against each other, but I think it's games in division or something like that. But we'll start talking about it. The Rams and for the Browns, these games are huge today and tomorrow.
100%. And, not only for in their division, but as we've mentioned, you're fighting against so many other teams in your respective conference to put yourself in that position. The Browns, especially given the AFC North, is a complete and total toss up at this point. And with the Rams, still fighting, hoping to take advantage of an ailing Cardinals team that we'll talk about here shortly. But so obviously we had some fluctuations there in the playoff picture standings. So we'll kind of get right into that, Mark, because a couple teams putting themselves, jumping a few into the number 1 spot. We had our first overall clincher being the Green Bay Packers, who have secured themselves that division. And, with a big win over the Ravens. So I guess we can talk about that with them being the 1 seed right now at 11-3. And, obviously a huge win there for the Packers. Not only are the Ravens a good team, even though they were without Lamar Jackson, they had a down and out defense, especially in the secondary. Still a good team. Obviously it showed because they put up a hell of a fight.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers had a signature Aaron Rodgers day. And I mean, even though it was an AFC opponent and all of those things, this was a super important win for them to get the clincher early and, to secure that, give yourself some cushion. Way better to do that now than in 2 weeks from now or the final week of the season.
So I absolutely loved what the Ravens did on Sunday, even in a loss. There's so much of what I love what the Ravens did. We'll talk about the Packers. I'll just say this about the Packers. That is exactly how you hope that game goes down. I know your defense didn't play the way you wanted it to. Aaron, though, played really well offensively. Their offense is clicking still right now. I mean, some of the throws he makes and the routes that him and Devontae Adams, they have a next level connection.
Chemistry,
I mean,
absolutely.
It reminds you of like the all-time great ones. I mean, his connection with Jordy, but even then, this
Marvin Harrison and Peyton, it seems like that.
Brady, Gronk, like but it's even more special than what he had with Jordy, just because you see the athletic ability of a Devontae Adams is a little bit more. I mean, Jordy was but Devontae Adams his technical route running is insane. His footwork's insane. But I'll say this, you look at that game at the beginning of the season again on the schedule and you say, crap, late season, we're in Baltimore. God, that's going to be tough. And you squeak out a win against a backup quarterback. I didn't love the game plan overall. I thought they made Huntley throw the ball way too many times. Latavius Murray, I thought was having, when the chance that he got to run the ball, I thought he had a very nice game. He still got stuff left in the tank. I absolutely love the Ravens benching Lamar Jackson for this game. I screamed it on my show Saturday morning. And what I kept preaching was at the Ravens, I'm so glad that they listen to my show and they take my advice.
Exactly.
Is that this game did not matter to them. It did not matter. They had 4 games remaining: Packers, Bengals, Rams, Steelers. The only 2 games that matter in that 4 games is the Bengals, Steelers. That's all that matters. It's literally all that matters. If you win those 2 games, you win your division and you host a playoff game. You're not going to be the 1 seed. That 1 seed had slipped you weeks ago when you dropped a couple bad losses and all the injuries that piled up. You just weren't going to get the 1 seed. So forget about that. Focus on winning your division and winning those games. And when Lamar Jackson rolled that ankle last week, so first thing I kept saying is only thing you should be doing is focusing on the Bengals and the Steelers. Get him healthy. And Huntley came out and played a really good game. I thought they made him throw the ball way too much. And then I love them going for 2, as Alex Ike knows, because he saw my tweet. And then I immediately tweeted out as the play call was going, no, dear God, what kind of play call was this? I love the formation they lined up in before the Packers timeout, or maybe they took a timeout to see what the Packers line in defensively, whatever happened. There was then the timeout. Then they line up spread out and they roll Huntley to the right, and he makes a throw moving to his right on the right. It just didn't have a chance, even though there was Marquise Brown, I think you had mentioned, open in the back of the end zone. He didn't see him, but
you can't really expect him, to. By the way, that obviously that's our bold strategy of the week, and it was a pretty clear one.
I jumped the
gun. That's all right. I mean, hey, we don't have to follow any specific formula on that.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Yeah.
It's so very clearly the bold strategy of the week for those reasons. And yeah, Marquise Brown was open, but also to your point about the play call in general, that he clearly wasn't the hot read. That was going to Mark Andrews all day.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to ask your backup quarterback to one. That's why it was a bad call, because I don't like those calls if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. I hate in the red zone shortening the field even more than it's already shortened for yourself.
I agree.
You're now giving yourself a very small window on the right side of the field to work with. You let the defense basically hang in there. The only thing you can make out of that is some sort of improvisational play where someone ends up going the other way and you end up finding a pocket over there. There's too many that could go wrong. I agree.
And with Lamar Jackson, I'm more comfortable with that because his speed. Huntley, and I tweeted it out through the game. Huntley, they need to sign him right now to whatever deal he wants, like a 7-year, whatever Lamar's deal is. Would they sign him finally? Sign Huntley to the same thing for like whatever his length. Feel comfortable. The length, because he's the perfect backup for Lamar Jackson.
Definitely,
I think he throws the ball almost as well as far as arm strength. It's not as great, and I do think he's not as accurate as Lamar. But he can run that offense, and then he runs the ball at about 70% of Lamar Jackson, which is a very efficient, which means you're one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. And I just think they feel comfortable with him. And Lamar, the way he plays, is going to miss 3-4 games a year, especially in an 18-game season. And so 17 game, but eventually it'll go that way.
Definitely going that route.
I just thought you lined up in power. You have 2 options: spread everyone out, but then sit in the pocket. Make them try to get you off, but then you can scramble left or right. When you go right, you immediately then are stuck on the right side of the field. If you sit in the pocket, you go left, right, or you can squirt up the middle if you're running the ball, or just run a power eye like you did with a quarterback keeper and have Latavius Murray and Mark Andrews in the backfield with you to help push you into the end zone. You know what I mean? Do the old Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush behind him, just push him in. I just didn't understand that play call. The Packers defense was gassed at that point in time. Their front seven was getting absolutely ran on. I just didn't understand why you didn't just let your guys push their guys 2 yards forward and fall in the end zone. But credit to the Packers coming out there with a win. And I think overall credit to the Ravens for making the smart call to go for it for 2. Bad decision on the play call for 2. But overall, they win because they rested Lamar Jackson, and he's healthy for the Bengals game next week. I'm pretty sure it's Bengals, then Steelers end the season, right?
Correct. Yeah. The Steelers game is absolutely the season finale. So, yeah, that's big. And obviously the Bengals game is big now too, because the Bengals right now
win for them.
Hold the division because they were able to get a very close, hard-fought win against the Denver Broncos. But we'll get to that in just a moment. I do want to say for the last word on that 2-point conversion, after having a little bit more time to think about it and the situation, I don't actually know. I guess at least allow me to play devil's advocate in the fact that I can understand now a little bit more what some of the critics have said. Now, people have given multiple reasons for why they didn't like the call to go for it. I thought the call at the time to go for it was perfectly fine. They weren't stopping Green Bay, and they wanted to try and win it outright. The one argument that I think holds weight is that there was still 42 seconds on the clock. So you go for it, you're up 1, but you don't trust your defense to stop Aaron Rodgers. I don't trust them then in that situation to stop him for 42 seconds to get into field goal range against one of the historically better kickers. So if there was 20 seconds on the clock, okay, definitely go for 2, no question. This one with 42 seconds on the clock, maybe there is a little bit more wiggle room there to say maybe they should have taken the points and hoped for the best. And maybe they get the ball first in overtime because the Packers hadn't stopped them on offense really much either. Nonetheless, I think it's encouraging for the Ravens to see how they performed without, Jimmy Smith too. Like they were already banged up in the secondary, and then Jimmy Smith couldn't play, and Lamar doesn't play, and you still almost beat what we now deem as probably the best team in football. That's pretty encouraging if I'm Baltimore. And then if you're Green Bay, it's still, like you mentioned, it's a great win on the road. Aaron Rodgers played great. And as we'll kind of allude to later on towards the end of this episode, when we give our kind of MVP watch, he made his case to insert himself into that conversation if he hadn't already been in there.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think you make a great point about with the timing. I will also just add, no man in that Ravens locker room at the end of the game was mad they win for 2 instead of
exactly.
King.
Yep.
So he keeps his locker room with him, Harbaugh, and he's a great coach. But also, I'm one of those people where the Ravens, because of other things they've done throughout the season, put themselves in a position where that didn't lose them their season. You know what I mean? I know right now, technically they're out of the playoffs, behind the Chargers, the Bengals, the Colts, the Bills, but they still have their season in front of them. They have 3 games left, 2 of them in division, like we've been saying. If it's the final game of the season and it's them versus the Steelers, and the Steelers are now up by 1 and it's overtime, you know what I mean? Then I would say kick the ball and extend your season. Give yourself a chance to extend your season because you never know what can happen the next play. Like give yourself a chance. You want to extend your season. This was not an extend your season moment. Your season's still plenty of season in front of you to control your destiny, to still win your division and get in the playoffs and host a playoff game.
Yeah, hindsight's 20/20 in a lot of these things, and obviously people are looking at it now that they've lost 2 games in recent weeks, going for 2 at the end of the game, and I can understand that, but at the end of the day, I do still totally understand the call, and I think he's getting maybe a little bit unnecessary amount of heat for that. It's just who they are. And look, they'll be on the winning side of that plenty of times as well. So it's just one of those situations, but I agree there. So we'll stay in the NFC here with that playoff picture, Mark, and the Cowboys moving up 2 spots now to the 2 seed. They're at 10-4. I mean, Packers at 11-3, Cowboys at 10-4. I mean, Cowboys are even putting themselves in a potential spot here to compete for a 1 seed if the Packers somehow falter in one of these final games. It's not looking super pretty all the time, but man, that Cowboys defense is looking really, really good. And that was something preseason that I don't think we necessarily anticipated for like Micah Parsons to have the impact he's having, for Trayvon Diggs to be the player he is. 10 interceptions for him this year. Yes, the offense had its moments. Zeke seemed to, like to have one of his more back to form games. Even though he had 50 yards, he had some really nice runs in there, sprinkled in with a couple catches. And the defense just ended up winning the game for them too, which is how well they dominated New York. It is the Giants though, right? I mean, it's what we expected. But nonetheless, I mean, this is a Dallas team. And this is what I kind of said at the beginning. They were in my predictions to win 12 games. And they're still very much, in firm play for a 12-5 finish, if not potentially a better one. They're looking like they'll be all right here, and they're going to win this division. So
very sly of you to slide that in. Give credit to yourself for calling this with the Cowboys.
I had to since I had the Carolina Panthers winning the division. That
Carolina,
this is something to help.
Hey, whichever one. Hey, you called coach getting fired mid-season too. That was you had that one. So kudos to you as well.
No. I said no coach though. I said no coach will get fired mid-season. We forgot to mention that last episode. Obviously, Urban Meyer wrecked it for me. That guy kicking kickers was the downfall of my bold predictions.
So I'll say this about the Cowboys. I think you said everything there in one quick sentence. The defense won it for them.
Yeah.
And the defense has been winning it for them lately a lot. And they have a fairly workable schedule down the stretch. I think it's Philly, Washington, and Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. And Arizona now doesn't look like world beaters at all. I mean, we'll talk about them coming on up here in a bit. But I'll just say this for the Cowboys right now. I'd be a little concerned. Dak has not looked great, but this defense is playing well enough now to where you don't need Dak to look great if this defense plays like that. Micah Parsons and Diggs both have a case for Defensive Player of the Year. They both do. Micah Parsons is already your Defensive Rookie of the Year, but he has a case to be the do the thing that that hasn't been done since Lauren Taylor, where you win Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year. He really could. I mean,
he's absolutely in contention for that.
He's incredible. Phenomenal. And Micah Parsons, and Trayvon Diggs as well. It's just been phenomenal. So credit to Dallas. I mean, that's how you want to win football games in December and January and February. Concern is they have the weapons there, and Dak is, Jerry says on the radio show that he does, which is just insane, that he's healthy. So where's the production at? I do, though, already love the idea of Dallas in Green Bay for the NFC Championship game, the Mike McCarthy revenge game. Inject that into my veins.
Oh, man, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
If Mike McCarthy were to beat Aaron Rodgers and get revenge, that would be pretty amazing. But anyway,
and for the team, with the Des Bryant catch, that wasn't ruled a catch. For Mike McCarthy to be the one that gives Dallas the redemption in the Green Bay Packers. That would be poetic for sure, no question.
So anyways, credit to Dallas's defense. I'm concerned about their offense. I think that'll show up, and I'll talk about it more in the Super Bowl playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving down the list here, and it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that are in the 3 seed. They fall down a spot from being the 2 seed. They are now 10-4 after getting shut out by the New Orleans Saints. Tom Brady's first shutout since 2006. It's been quite a while.
Nick Saban did that to him.
Yes. So that just shows you right there. For any context, Nick Saban was in the NFL the last time.
Kids, our young listeners,
He was actually an NFL coach for a time. Really rough outing there for Tampa. Just in general, obviously, they couldn't get anything going. Mike Evans leaves early with an injury. Chris Godwin, we are learning now, as of today, they initially thought it was an MCL injury, which he left the game early with. It has now been ruled an ACL.
Torn.
His season is done. That's a brutal blow to Tampa. And now with the news of them retaining Antonio Brown, maybe that makes a little bit more sense now with the team in a more desperate situation in terms of needing some of those outside weapons. But to the game itself, to be held scoreless kind of says it all for you. Tampa's defense did what you would expect it to do. I mean, they held New Orleans to 9 points, 3 field goals. You can't ask for much more than that. But Tom Brady, out of sync, just wasn't able to connect with anyone. He threw an ill-timed interception there late. Obviously, you could tell he was super frustrated. He threw a Microsoft Surface. He was yelling, apparently threw an F-bomb at the opposing coaches at one point. Tom Brady, really, they had him on edge in this one for sure. And that you could tell that this guy was pissed off.
This is one of those weird ones. And you didn't know how to explain it. You're watching the game and it just felt like everything was just like in a Twilight Zone type of thing. And, credit to the Saints for keeping themselves alive. They're now the 7th seed, depending on what happens with the football team and the Eagles game. They stopped a long skid. And me, I've been out on the Saints since they lost Jameis. And so I don't think the Saints are going to make the playoffs, but this was a nice, feather in the cap for the Saints organization. Defensively, they still got a bunch of guys. And kind of like I said last week, if you're a Saints team right now, you're playing to just try to impress free agent quarterbacks. You know what I mean?
Sure.
When you want to come here, or can we trade to get a guy to, to come here and be with Sean Payton? But for the Bucs, I'm not worried. I'm not panicking. I jokingly was saying on my radio show this morning, there's 2 teams in the NFL who I would not want to be at practice with this week. And it was the Tampa Bay Bucs and the New England Patriots.
Right. Yeah.
Those
sure,
practices this week are going to be brutal. And I expect both teams to be in a really better position and bounce back. It's a stinker. It's a dud. It just goes to show you too, it's hard to win in the NFL, man, and consistently win. And things can go wrong, and a lot of things, injuries, COVID now, everyone's dealing with. You have key coaches out on all sides. It's hard to win. Even the GOAT can get shut out and on a night's notice at home. But I'm not gonna put too much worry into it. If it's a trend, I'll give the Bucs a week of like, okay, let's just forget it, put it in the trash. If to see what happens next week, and then I'll start to get concerned or not.
Yeah, I mean, Tom threw 48 times in this game, and
too many.
When he's thrown that or more just 4 times this year, he's 2-2. So it's obviously he's one of those guys that bucks a lot of trends where, it almost isn't as big of a factor as, another quarterback would be 0-4 when they throw 50 plus times. But that does just go to show you though, that, this isn't the team that they've wanted to be or the team they have been. I mean, they've prided themselves on like Leonard Fournette really getting to, take that even next step this year from where he was in the playoffs. And it's interesting, they've barely been using Ronald Jones. This game, he actually goes off for 8 yards a carry, and it's all for naught. Yeah. He had 63 yards on 8 carries in this one, but it just wasn't enough. They could never, get no rhythm at all. And so that forces you to throw the passes a lot. It's a dud. It's probably an outlier. I agree. I'm not super concerned, but I will say it does go to show, like as bad as the Chiefs have been at times, they never got shut out. Like there is a concern that, like they can lose this way now. Like, cause we have a example of them not being able to score a single point. So,
you
take that for what it's worth,
happen.
But you can't overreact to it either. I'm right there with you. They're going to be in the playoff race and they're going to win this division. So you're not overly concerned unless they are, like barring a miracle, right? Because like the Saints would have to win out and they'd have to lose out.
Yes, pretty much at this point. So, and I'll say this, also, I know it's New Orleans offense is Taysom Hill, but their defense still played really, really well and only gave up 9 points. Yeah. So and they're a team that, again, you saw in the playoffs last year, they won the Super Bowl because of their defense. So again, I don't want to overreact. It was a weird game, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Ryan Suckup did miss a field goal, so it, you would ideally say it was a 9-3 game for the most part. And then when you think about it in that respect,
so brutal,
you're like, wow, they played that bad and they were only still within 6 points at the end of the game. So yeah, you could definitely throw that into the arena as well. To the 4 seed, the Arizona Cardinals, who just, a week and a half ago were the 1 seed and seemed to be in control of that first round bye. Now they're 10-4, 2 straight losses. This one coming to the Detroit Lions, in which really they had no momentum in this one at all. They were down 17-0 at the half.
Yeah.
Jared Goff had a pretty solid game. They were able to get multiple running backs involved in this one, despite not having TJ Hawkinson and not having DeAndre Swift. An impressive outing there for Detroit. And Kyler Murray, 23 of 41 for a touchdown. No DeAndre Hopkins for them in this one. James Conner had his moments, but nothing crazy. They had Chase Edmonds back. You really felt that they were going to do something in this game to inspire some confidence, even without Hopkins, because they're getting Edmonds back, because, Kirk and Ertz and Green were healthy. This one's kind of, I guess, maybe in the same boat in terms of not trying to over panic, but it's 2 in a row. And, the way Detroit kind of made that offensive line look at times too. And granted, Kyler put himself in some bad situations as well. But I don't know. How confident are you in the Cardinals here at this point, given that they're on this little bit of a skid?
Not confident, and I think it's more than a little bit of a skid. They were 9-0, 8-0. They were the last undefeated team. So if you take it as a whole, since they've started losing games, I think they're 2-4 over their last 6 now at this point. And I'll add on this. Now I know Kyler wasn't healthy for a lot of that, and D-Hop wasn't either, and they had some games with Colt McCoy. But again, that just goes to show you the ups and downs of the NFL season. The Cardinals, they got punched in the mouth. And since the last time we recorded, last Monday afternoon, they've lost 2 games. So they're in a really different spot since the last time we talked. And I'll just say this. That's the type of loss after a bad loss where it's like they really lost 2 games to the Rams there. That Rams loss hit them so hard, you could tell all week they were not focused, because the Detroit Lions, and we've said this all year, yes, they've lost 11 games, and but they tied Pittsburgh for a reason. They beat Minnesota for a reason. They were within a couple plays from beating Baltimore. They were up early big on Green Bay in that game. They're a physical football team that has some discipline and has some sort of identity and will hit you in the mouth. They are not the worst team in the league by far. And this is one of those, a great reminder to every NFL team that if you lose and get, kind of knocked on your feet by a division rival like they did on Monday Night Football, you got to be careful. They were 13-point favorites and got absolutely rocked in Detroit, and credit to Detroit for doing that to them. The Cardinals could very easily, not only, I think at this point, miss the playoffs at 10-7. They have the Cowboys, the Seahawks, and the
Colts.
And the Colts next.
Yeah,
next
some hungry teams.
Or they could end up being 10-7 and enter the playoffs on a 5-game losing streak as well. Like they have got to, they don't have to beat the Colts, but they have got to show that they're back to the Cardinals and the fight against this Colts team, because the Colts right now are a really good football team, despite their quarterback. It's weird. We'll talk about them. I think there's some real concern in Arizona.
No question. I mean, they've got to turn things around. As you mentioned, these next 2 games in particular are going to be very important for them when you're talking about the Cowboys competing for that 1 seed. I mean, like they're not going to get any slouches here. So yeah, they're going to have to turn it around quickly if they want to, get back into that relevant situation in the NFC West. The Rams, as we mentioned, have that game against the Seahawks on Tuesday. That is a big game because the Rams do have that potential then to push themselves right there with the Arizona Cardinals for the division. Meanwhile, the 49ers are just a game back. They're now 8-6 after getting a win over the Falcons. So now all of a sudden you're looking at this, playoff picture, and it's like, man, 3 teams very likely from the NFC West are going to make it here in the NFC standings. These final weeks are obviously going to be big determining factors, but we mentioned the Saints crawling themselves into that 7th seed. So that's where we stand right now in terms of rounding out those playoff standings. And in the NFC, Washington has an opportunity here to, I think if Washington wins, they'll jump the Saints into the 7th seed. I might be wrong. I don't know.
So let me do the little
what their NFC standing is.
Let me do the little, I'm on the predictor ESPN.
Because the Vikings are in a similar position as well. They're in the 9 seed. So if they beat the Bears, then they have a shot.
If the Vikings win tonight and the football team, this is what I just did. I'm on the ESPN playoff machine. Shout out them. They should sponsor me because I spend more time on them than I do working at work. I have right now. I just put in it doesn't matter. We're talking AFC. I put in the Raiders beating the Browns, the Vikings beating the Bears, football team beating the Eagles, and the Rams beating the Seahawks. If that goes down, Rams will be 10-4, 5th seed. Niners 8-6, 6th seed. Football team over the Saints. But if the Eagles win, then the Minnesota Vikings are in at 7-7. But if the Eagles win and the Bears win, the Eagles are still in.
Gotcha.
So the Saints
are in a tough spot because Vikings, they don't have.
They're behind the Vikings, the Eagles, and the football team right now from the ESPN playoff machine ranking and all that fun stuff. Now, gotcha. I got a good feeling about the Bears winning and the Eagles winning, which we'll talk about later. So I think by this time on Wednesday, we'll be looking at the Eagles actually in that 7th seed, but that's just me.
So looking to the AFC, Mark, the Chiefs jumped 2 spots to claim the 1 seed that was currently being fought between the Patriots and the Titans at the time. Obviously, the Patriots lost to the Colts. Titans lost to the Steelers. Chiefs beat the Chargers on Thursday Night Football. That was a great game, probably the best game of the weekend next to the Packers-Ravens game. Like those were the 2 good football battles. Everything else was kind of a stinker across the board. Chiefs, though, jump up 2 spots. They got the 1 seed now. And, this is what we had talked about, not overly panicking on the Chiefs, too, during their struggles, because they could turn it on any moment, and all of a sudden they're the most terrifying team. This was a Kelsey game, a Hill game, a Mahomes game. All of them were dynamite, and we saw what happens with that. Not even a great effort from the Chargers could overcome what Kansas City was able to do in that one. I mean, Herbert looked great, but Patrick Mahomes just looks better, in this game. And it was like for them to fend off the Chargers late in that game and get the scoring drives that they needed. Very impressive stuff. And, now the Chiefs are, in a good spot to kind of control their destiny.
Rewind in your brains to that moment when Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans had a 24-0 lead over the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs a couple of years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And then Kansas City came back and put up like 40 straight points in like 2 quarters. That was the final establishing moment where we all said, and since that moment, I think is the moment where we all just agree, like, okay, if you have Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill, the game is never over. There was a small stretch of the season, in the beginning, the first 7 games, they were 3-4. We were really questioning that. We legitimately could, because we had 7 games of evidence where it's like, okay, we have 7 games of evidence to combat what we just have programmed in our brains. But over the past 7 games on their 7-game win streak, it's reset that kind of, okay, back to the defense really playing well, but the offense can still score, do what they did. And this then felt again like there were times where the Chiefs were down big in this game. They got up, they got down, and then Mahomes did what he did in the 4th quarter that felt like those Mahomes teams of the last couple years since that playoff win against the Texans. I'll say this, the Chiefs fans and the Packers fans have to feel amazing right now. Things just fell their way. I mean, their teams got the 2 decisive great game wins of the weekend. And the 2 teams around them, the Patriots, the Titans, the Bucks, and the Cardinals, they fell flat in their face. And even the teams that are, they could be maybe worried about a little bit, who weren't really on the radar, the Cowboys, the Bengals, while they won, neither of them looked convincing in their wins. So if you're a Chiefs and you're a Packers fan this morning, you got to feel really good. I'll say this about the Chargers. I predicted the Chargers to be the 7th seed in the AFC and to make it in. So they're right on track for how I felt. You can get emotional on the roller coaster of game by game, but remind yourself, it's a second-year quarterback who's doing things that we haven't seen ever done by a 2-year quarterback in NFL history, as far as the only guy to ever go rookie year, sophomore year, 30-plus touchdown passes. And he's blowing away. I talked to us on my Saturday show. He's blowing away the numbers that Andrew Luck put up as a rookie. He's doing things that you're just like, what is going on? And he's doing it with the rookie head coach that we really believe in. So I don't want to panic about the Chargers. And let's be honest, the Chargers are going to be the little brother in that. They're going to have to win wild card games. That's just it. They're in a division with the Chiefs. You're going to have to win wild card games. That's talk to the Texans, the Titans, and the Jags with Peyton Manning in their division for how many years?
Yeah,
talk
the Bills,
talk to the Chiefs for all those years when Peyton Manning was in Denver and Alex Smith. You're just going to have to win wild card games. You talk to the Jets, the Bills, the Dolphins with Tom Brady. That's just what happens when you have a generational guy. So don't want to panic with the Chargers. I still think the Chargers can win playoff games, and they put up. They may be the most equipped team to beat Kansas City. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it did take overtime for Kansas City to win, and it was whatever it was, 60-yard touchdown from Kelsey.
Yeah.
If you make some tackles. I mean, it was bad tackling on that play. If they make tackles, maybe the Chargers do win that game. They were that close. But
Dan, the Chiefs they're in a good spot to have a 10-game win streak and a number one overall seed. They have the Steelers at home next week. Then they have where are they at? Then they are at Cincinnati. That's going to be a massive game. And I think they should flex that game into something prime time. And then
I'm sure they will.
The final week of the season, the Chiefs are in Denver, which at this point, Denver, especially Teddy now probably missing a week or two with the concussion, are probably going to be out at that point in time. So they are in a really good spot. 2 big games against AFC North opponents over the next 2 weeks, and if they could take care of business, the Chiefs will be the road to the Super Bowl could once again go through Arrowhead.
Yeah, it looks like it won't be through Gillette, despite that seeming for maybe about 2 weeks to be the way. Look, they're a good football team. The New England Patriots are. I don't think there's any question about that. Their problem has become like they're not winning in a variety of ways. This is a team that cannot play from behind because they just don't have the firepower to do it.
Yeah.
And especially against an adept defense on the opposite side. If they're playing a weak defense, then maybe they have a chance to do that. They can run the football, but they weren't able to get that going because the Colts defense played really good in this game. The fourth quarter is when the Patriots scored all 17 of their points. Now they are the 2 seed. But yes, at that point it was, starting to, just become apparent that it was going to take too much time for them to get over that hump. And then obviously Jonathan Taylor, breaks out that 80-yard touchdown run to kind of seal things late in this one for the Colts. It has been a really great couple of weeks for the Colts, who were on the outside looking in, and now they are 1 game out from claiming the division away from Tennessee. But let's stick with the Patriots right now at that 2 seed. They're at 9-5. They're still obviously in a very good position to win the division, but obviously the Bills are ready to take advantage of any slip-ups here, and the Patriots have now had a couple of games here where they haven't looked so hot, especially on offense. They haven't been able to control the line of scrimmage. That might be a problem for them here in the 2 seed. I'm not so sure they should feel very comfortable there as of right now. I think we're all comfortable they're going to make the playoffs, though. It's just whether or not they're actually going to take this division from the Bills, because the Bills are going to come back. They're not going to go down without fighting,
I think you've missed one huge thing, and I think that, to me, it's the thing that's most concerning is Bill Belichick never gets embarrassed like this, in the sense where, what does Bill Belichick always do really well? He's a defensive head coach that looks at your offense and takes away what you do really well. And he could not take away Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor beat him single-handedly still in that game, especially with the ceiling big run. That, to me, is the concern, because if this was Mac Jones's 8th year in the league and he had already won a Super Bowl, I'd look at this game and go, all right, 1 off. Okay, Mac, you know what I mean? Like, if we've seen things. But Mac, I'm not going to freak out at Mac Jones in the offense. He's a bleeping rookie. And I mean, he's going to have games like this. It's a good Colts defense. It's a well-coached Frank Wright head coach.
Very good defense.
I called this game on my show on Saturday. Go back and listen to it. I felt really good about this. Just there's something about the Colts, the way they're playing. And their offensive line is so physical.
They're
And Quentin
dominant.
Nelson and what they do, and their defense is getting healthy, playing right. Darius Leonard's a freak. And they're a well-coached team at home. Frank Reich is one of these coaches we don't talk about enough in the NFL. And listen, Carson Wentz tried to give that game away, and the Colts still won.
That's the only concerning thing for the Colts is like they're going to have to lean into Jonathan Taylor and the defense. That's going to be their formula. And then maybe they get a couple nice deep shots from Carson at the right times, you know.
And so for the Patriots, I still feel the Patriots are a playoff team. They don't have it easy. I mean, they have the Bills game next week is huge.
Huge game.
And then they, the Patriots they host the Jags. That should be an easy win. And then they, where are they in the final week? The Patriots.
I didn't have it up yet.
Oh, they're in Miami. So
okay.
The Patriots could miss the playoffs.
Yeah, and they don't play very well in Miami. Historically.
And Miami's playing really good football right now. So that Jags game is huge, and the Bills game is big. I mean, they've got to win 2 of 3 because of all the other teams in the AFC, the wild card being so close. They don't have, so they've got to win 2 of 3. Can they do it? I think so. I would try. I mean, but they haven't made it easy for themselves now with hosting Buffalo, hosting the Jags at Miami. It's going to be tight, especially because Buffalo, and we'll talk about this, their schedule after the Patriots game next week is really easy. They got to win 2 of 3. We feel like they can do that, as we've mentioned before. For the Colts, though, I feel confident about the Colts now at Arizona. There's no reason why they can't win that game. Then they host the Raiders. There's no reason why they can't win that game. Then they're at Jacksonville. So the Colts could be in a 3-game win streak, and they would need it to win their division because, remember, they have to be a game up on Tennessee because Tennessee's 2-0 against them. So their schedule is playing out for Indianapolis. It's going to be a huge game for them at Arizona next week.
Yeah, and Tennessee's banged up. It looks like Julio Jones will be done probably for the year. They're not going to get Derrick Henry back to the playoffs unless they make it there. So the Colts have an opportunity to take advantage right now in the 5 seed at 8-6. The Titans dropped 1 spot down to 9-5 there, tied with the Patriots, but they are the 3 seed here. They fall to the Steelers in a pretty ugly game overall. Titans offense all out of sorts, a lot of turnovers. Obviously, that was the difference maker in this one, really, for Tennessee. Tannehill did not have a good game. The receivers dropping passes. You had just all sorts of issues for them on that front. They ran the ball all right, but overall, kind of a sloppy game. And Tennessee really needed to have that one. Obviously, it was big for Pittsburgh to stay in the fight because if they lost that one, it's pretty much season over. And so for Pittsburgh stays alive, but now Tennessee falters, and they're in a spot now. It was a 19-13 game. They were shut out the second half. Tennessee's going to have to make a very quick turnaround. There's no real estate left here. I mean, this is the point of season. You don't have room for these things.
You're absolutely right. And we were just mentioning it. The way the records are playing on out here, every single team that's not Kansas City in the AFC playoff picture that's currently in New England, Tennessee, Cincinnati, Indy, LA, the Chargers, Buffalo, and Baltimore, they all need to win 2 of 3 to get in. If you win 2 of your 3 and you're any of those teams, and a lot of them are playing each other, so that's what makes this also crazy.
Yeah.
If you say to yourself, every single one of those 7 teams I just listed, you win 2 of 3, you're in. Here's the thing. If you're Cleveland, Pittsburgh, you need to win out and get a little help. And you're Miami and Denver and the Raiders, you need to win out and get a little help. So they all can control their destiny. So it's currently in the playoff picture, but the problem is a lot of them play each other. This AFC picture is wild. And Tennessee's one of those teams that they had a chance to lock up a playoff spot with the win in Pittsburgh. And they would have gotten to that 10 wins because we talked about that 10 win mark being so important to lock in a playoff spot in the AFC. They couldn't do it. And now they are backs against the wall, and they host a red hot San Francisco team. Then they are hosting a red hot Miami team. And then they're in Houston. So a divisional opponent, never easy. And Houston's playing really well if Leighton Davis Mills has come alive. So Tennessee, you're banged up and your backs are, and now a little bit against the wall. So good luck to the Titans. I don't feel confident about the Titans right now.
They're not going to hang on to that 3 seed. I think the Colts are going to end up winning this division at this point. The Titans are, progressively getting worse. The Colts are getting better at the right time. And it's all about timing, really, when it comes down to the National Football League. Titans, still very well could make the playoffs, but they're in trouble. The Bengals are there, the 4 seed, the final division winner, as they leapfrog a lot of people. They move up 5 spots from being out of the playoff picture to now the 4 seed. They are first in the NFC North.
Huge
gritty, tough win over the Denver Broncos. Meanwhile, Teddy Bridgewater, by the way, went down, looked scary. Same with Donald Parham from the Chargers. Both are expected to be okay. Everyone said they're all right, but concussions likely going to keep those 2 players out for at least the next week. But good to know that they're going to be okay moving forward. But the Bengals, huge win. Only 1 touchdown scored in this one. Jamar Chase was completely rendered, not a factor. Joe Mixon wasn't a factor in this one. So the Broncos, despite being able to shut all that down, the Bengals found a way to overcome it. And it was an extremely important game. They get the win there. And now, Mark, that was important for many reasons, but one being the remaining schedule is so difficult that you needed to get everyone you could get at the front end.
Yep.
They take on the Ravens, Chiefs, end the season at the Browns, who can certainly want to play.
And they got to win 2 of 3. Like we said, they have got to win.
And that's going to be tough. That is going to be tough, but they can do it.
They can. And you know what I respect about this Bengals team, again, even if they only win 1 of those 3 and they miss the playoffs at 9 and 8, they have overperformed where their projection would be immensely. And this was the type of win that you like to see from a Bengals, where the sense that we know their offense can score and we know their offense can be prolific at times. And Joe Burrow is such a bright young quarterback in this league, and any organization will be lucky to have him. But they found a way to grind out a win against a really tough, hard-nosed Denver team, and a well-coached Denver team at that. And, credit to them on the road in Mile High. And, you hate to see Teddy go down with an injury. Very thankful that him and Parham, it's just concussions and they'll battle back. Your guy, Freiermuth's second concussion, like 3 weeks as well?
Yeah, he took a tough shot.
A real issue right now, the NFL. And part of it is it's crazy. You see guys, some of these concussions, the one for Bridgewater and Parham, the tight end for the Rams. Not the Rams, excuse me. The
Chargers. Yep.
Chargers. They're so athletic and they're moving so fast. You see these guys leaping in the air. They were both non-contact, like just the way they fell, because they're falling so high and so far. It's scary stuff to see. And that's something I just don't know how the NFL, that's not, hit stick, Ray Lewis concussions. That's,
right. No, it's just falling to the ground. And
it is. And so it's scary stuff, but credit to the Bengals. Again, the Bengals and the Titans right now. I actually love the way the Bengals are playing. Problem is their schedule is insane. And I don't love the way the Titans are playing, but their schedule is also very tough. They could be the odd ones out when you look at this, and maybe a Baltimore and a Baltimore sneaks in there. And who else?
The Dolphins could, the Steelers could, because of that tie. If the Steelers end up with, if the Steelers somehow run the table, I don't think that's the case. But if they do, then they're, a 6-loss team. A 6-loss team, you would think, is for sure getting in.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting. It'll be fascinating to see. But either way, a great win for the Bengals to stay alive and give themselves a fighting chance to the last week.
Yeah. Then we had, obviously, the Colts that we mentioned at the 5 seed, the Chargers there at the 6 seed, and the Bills rounding it out as the 7 seed, all 8-6 teams. And we mentioned this crazy AFC. I mean, the Bills are the ones.
Oh yeah, we've talked about this with the Bills before. Again, they've got to win 2 of 3. After that, after week 16 against the Patriots, they host Atlanta. That's a W. And then
the Jets, right?
And then they host the Jets. So, the Bills are
2 of 3.
Firstly, I feel very confident about them finding a spot. Now, whether it's winning their division or not, I don't know, but I feel confident about them finding a spot. The Chargers are another one. They are at the Texans next week. Then they host Denver, and they are at the Raiders. So I feel confident about them finding a way to win 2 of 3 in that stretch as well. So in all of this madness in the AFC, there's 3 teams I feel really confident about locking up spots. It's Kansas City, Buffalo, and LA, the Chargers. The other teams, their schedules are brutal, and we just got to see. They're going to all beat each other up and see who can find a way to weasel into the playoffs.
Yep, that's going to be obviously a race worth keeping an eye on, especially in the AFC, as we mentioned. I think everyone from the 12 seed Broncos up to the 8 seed Ravens, they're all just separated by 1 game.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things can fall a lot of different ways. And glad to see that they're all kind of battling each other these final weeks. Should be super exciting there. Let's talk about the MVP race real quick, Mark, because there's probably some shifting there as well. Now, it's been Tom Brady over the past several weeks as the front runner, and he remains the front runner currently, according to Fox Sports Bet and most betting outlets, at plus 120 to win the MVP. But the way he performed this week against the New Orleans Saints, in contrast with how Aaron Rodgers played against the Ravens, you got to feel like this one's getting a lot tighter. And then not to mention, say the Colts end up winning this division, they're going to have done so behind the legs of Jonathan Taylor, who, while not a quarterback, I mean, there's, without Derrick Henry in the league right now, he's the one running back that you would say clearly is the biggest reason for their team's success.
So I will say this, as of right now, if I had a vote, it would go to Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he is, and I have the stats here on Jonathan Taylor.
Would you give it to him if they just make the playoffs? Like, say they're a 7 seed, like in your mind, it's not necessarily tied to that as much. Like, if they win the division, I think it makes a better case for him.
Well, here's the thing, Dan.
Yeah.
They have 8 wins. The only time the Colts have won a game this year, he's gone over 100 yards. In their 6 losses, he hasn't gone over 100 yards. He also has the benefit of, look at the quarterback play in the playoffs right now. If you look at the quarterback play in the playoffs right now, there's only, you could argue, 2 people who have a worse quarterback situation than him. And I'd honestly only argue 1 person, and that's the Saints. I mean, Carson Wentz is clearly the worst quarterback in the AFC playoff race right now. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Mac Jones.
Tannehill, the way Tannehill's playing, not great, but I would agree.
You'd still trust him more than you would trust Carson Wentz.
Yeah, you could.
Joe Burrow being the other. And in the NFC, it's not even close. He's by far, besides the Saints, the worst situation. So they're in the modern NFL, where you need a quarterback to be playing at a prolific level to have a chance to win at a high level. The Colts have 8 wins. In all 8 of those wins, Jonathan Taylor's gone over 100 yards. He's at 1,500 yards and 17 touchdowns rushing. He has 336 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's closing in on 2,000 total yards and 19 touchdowns with still 3 games remaining. So as of right now, I think he's the MVP. The NFL has not given the running back, anyone but a quarterback, the MVP since 2007, except for that Adrian Peterson 2012 year. And I will say this also puts it into perspective of how different the NFL is. There's only one other running back right now that has over 1,000 yards rushing. That's Joe Mixon at 1,094. So he's got 500 more yards than
that's crazy. I didn't realize that. It's wild.
Insane. It's an insane stat. And I also just think it's because if the Colts, now granted, the Colts have a tough schedule ahead. They're at Arizona, and then they host the Raiders, and then they end the season at the Jaguars. If they win out and they win their division, and Jonathan Taylor has 100 yards rushing each of those games, so that stat then goes to 11 wins, 11 times he's rushed for 100 yards. At that point in time, you'd be arguing he's close to 2,000 yards rushing, probably over 20 rushing TDs with, say, another 100 receiving yards and maybe another receiving touchdown. Especially Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, would have to – Aaron Rodgers, here's my problem with it. Tom Brady had it in his hands, and he really is giving me the case to make for Jonathan Taylor, because Aaron Rodgers is 1,000 yards behind Tom Brady in yards. He's like 6 or 7 touchdowns behind Tom Brady, even though Brady has like 10 more interceptions than Aaron Rodgers. I just don't see the NFL giving Rodgers back-to-back MVPs when Green Bay overall has just been such a physical football team, and they have weapons. I mean, he has a Devontae Adams. He has a really good running game, 2 good running backs, and a defense that's playing the best for Green Bay and for Aaron Rodgers' tenure since he won the Super Bowl. You know, it's not as good of a storyline as Jonathan Taylor right now is the only reason the Colts. It would be one thing if the Colts had like Justin Herbert. You're like, okay, well, they also have a star quarterback that's playing really well. They don't have that at all. They have a guy who's trying to resurrect his career, and he's not doing a very good job at it. He is the story in Indy, and right now I think it's the best storyline for them to be the MVP. And I truly believe, as far as the teams in the playoffs, any team in the playoffs, if you take away their best player, they're not a playoff team. But Jonathan Taylor's doing it in an era that it's not right when you look at everyone else and what they're doing.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if things kind of go according to plan the rest of the way, I would certainly want him in there. It's just from the fact it's what I want and would choose versus what I think the NFL will do. And I think the NFL just doesn't want a running back as the league MVP for whatever reason. And I think they want the story of Tom Brady being 45 years old, you know, winning the MVP. I mean, he's first in the league in touchdowns and yards, 4th in passer rating. Meanwhile, Rodgers is first in passer rating, but just top 10 in those other 2 categories. Jonathan Taylor, meanwhile, pacing all running backs in pretty much every category there. So, and I do think like that he means more to the Colts this year. Like there's no question that he means that much to the Colts based on what they've been able to do. This is a completely different team without Jonathan Taylor at the helm. It is interesting to ponder, but I think those are absolutely the clear 3 front runners right now. Whereas 3 weeks ago, Kyler Murray seemed like he was going to be the guy, right? Or maybe more like a month ago. But those things can shift a lot. And, you know, if Tom Brady has another dud, then all of a sudden, you know, this becomes wide open, essentially.
Well, Tom has everything in front of him to put up big stats. I mean, they're at Carolina, and then they're where are they? Then they're at the Jets, and then they're home against Carolina. Same for Aaron Rodgers. He hosts the Browns next week on Christmas Day, national TV. Say he puts up 3 touchdowns, 300 yards in a win against Cleveland, and then the Green Bay hosts the Vikings, and then they end the season at Detroit. Which I don't think they'll be resting him at that point in time because you just don't know where the 1 seed will be. And you want to make sure you have it locked up. So both of them have an opportunity, easy opportunities in front of them and national audiences to reclaim the storylines. And I think it's a great storyline for either quarterback to win it. Aaron Rodgers back-to-back. Will he leave Green Bay after winning back-to-back back-to-back number 1 overall seeds and back-to-back MVPs? That's an incredible storyline for the NFL, and same with Brady. But I do believe firmly there will be a lot of buzz if Jonathan Taylor and the Colts win out and he rushes for 100 yards in each one of those games and gets a couple more touchdowns, gets over 20 touchdowns rushing. That's a huge number for rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's LT type of stuff. And he gets close to 2,000 yards and the Colts win the division with Carson Wentz playing the way he's played. I think there's a large beating drum for him to be the MVP. And give one of the quarterbacks the offensive player of the year. You know what I mean? And flip it. You know, but who knows at this point? It's the NFL. I just think, especially with how far away he'll be from the second with Joe Mixon, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, look like how much you separate yourselves from your contemporaries. Yeah, and pretty wild.
So many of the big backs have been injured this year. Henry's out. Dalvin Cook's in and out. Kamara missed time. Christian McCaffrey's out.
Saquon
is just not returned to form, and he's missed time with the injury. And then here you have Jonathan Taylor, who's exploded and has been a workhorse and has played in every game.
Yeah, there's absolutely a case for him. Not just the best running back in the NFL, but the best player playing right now, and it's impressive in just his sophomore campaign. So good stuff there. You got a Super Bowl playing update for us, so let's see where we're at on that.
I do. I've thinned it out. We only have to do this a couple more times. It ends of the regular season. So we've taken off from Dallas. And we're landing in Arizona just in time to watch the Cardinals plummet. So the update is from last week. Only one team was removed from first class. Two teams removed from first class and no teams added. The Patriots and the Cardinals were both removed from first class. And that has to do with the fact that the Cardinals, since then, we've lost 2 games since then. Last time we did Super Bowl playing, the Cardinals were 10-2. So they're 10-4 now, and they've just looked physically dominated in both games, which is obviously very concerning. And what did I say last week when we did this before the Cardinals played the Rams? The Cardinals' only chance, in my opinion, to get to the Super Bowl was hosting the road to the NFC. Them on the road in Tampa, them on the road in Green Bay, on the road in Dallas or in LA. You just don't trust the young Cardinals team in that way. Young quarterback, young head coach with a lot of veteran players, obviously. So they're out. So it's the Packers, Bucks, Chiefs. Right now, those are the only 3 teams I feel comfortable saying I would bet money that they would win the Super Bowl. No other teams do I feel comfortable saying I will bet my money they would win the Super Bowl. And that's what first class is all about. Business class is the Rams and the Cowboys. That means I trust they could win multiple playoff games. I feel really good about the Rams right now doing that. And since the Cowboys are getting themselves all the way up to the 2nd seed, I feel good about them doing that as well. The Cowboys need to avoid the Rams and find themselves a way to get that 7th seed. The Cowboys can win multiple playoff games if they avoid the Rams and the Niners in the wild card. I really believe that. In Dallas, their defense just playing really, really well, and Dak won't turn the ball over. Will Dak be special? I don't know, but he won't make the big mistake. I know that about Dak. So I do feel confident now the Cowboys can win multiple playoff games. And then stand by again. These to me are playoff teams, but I just don't know. I just don't trust them to win multiple games right now. And that's the Cards and the Patriots. They are the leaders of that pack. And then the Colts, Bengals, Bills, and Niners. They all feel like playoff teams to me. Notice I don't have the Titans. I don't have the Bengals, teams I talked about. Obviously don't have the Saints in there. And so those are just teams I just don't right now feel confident at all seeing are going to win multiple playoff games. But those are teams I feel confident are playoff teams right now.
For the Bills, is it mainly because of their one-dimensional approach?
Well, yeah, Josh Allen did not look healthy. I mean, that foot, whatever it was, he was not running the way you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if Josh Allen is limping into the playoffs, literally on a foot that he should be able to get 2 to 3 weeks of rest, and then, you know what I mean? If this was week 5, he wouldn't be playing for a couple of weeks. But they've put themselves in a bad spot. And if you're talking about a non-healthy Josh Allen, now Singletary ran the ball better and they established some of that. But again, I have to see multiple weeks of that. The Bills can put themselves easily back into business class or first class the way the season ends. They have it in front of them because if they can run the ball and host playoff games in Buffalo and take the division back from New England, I'll feel much better about Buffalo.
Yeah. I don't disagree there at all. So this will be interesting to see kind of how things form on that plane, particularly next week, because we mentioned next week has a lot of intriguing matchups within the division. And I mean, some teams might completely put themselves out of the playoffs next week in terms of that picture and how things are going to form there. Yeah. So
Dan,
it should be great. Look forward to that.
4 games here remaining. Obviously, the Browns and the Raiders are happening right now as we're recording. So I don't really want to touch on that. I haven't looked, but I trust the Raiders just because the Browns are, I think, still down to their 3rd quarterback. Right? It's Nick Mullen.
Nick Mullen, and no Kevin Stefanski either for them.
So if you're watching on the YouTube, I'm repping my Bears Miller Lite ugly Christmas sweater.
Looks lovely.
I love the Bears tonight to win and to score over 19.5. Hosting Minnesota, primetime Kirk Cousins stinks. Bears at home. Justin Fields, primetime. Matt Nagy all alone. No Bill Lazor. They're out with COVID. He just loved Matt Nagy to just sniff to find a way to try to keep his job alive. I just love the Bears. I mean, it's mainly I hate Kirk Cousins in primetime, and I love Justin Fields at home. The Bears defense plays better at home. But how do you feel about the other games? I actually like the Eagles, and I like the Rams and the Bears. So I like the Bears, Eagles, and Rams.
Well, at first I like the Vikings, and the one and only reason for that is the Bears inactives list in terms of that secondary, man. No Eddie Jackson, no Jalen Johnson. I mean,
yeah, that hurts against Justin
Jefferson and that's the one thing that concerns me. I will say Justin Fields has been playing a lot better, and I think he's clearly showing a lot of improvement. So that would be, the concern there for Minnesota. But I would take Minnesota in this game, albeit a close one. I have the Rams at home over the Seahawks, and I actually have the Eagles winning this game at home with, I believe Jalen Hurts is returning. Is he not? I believe he's going to play this week.
I think so. I just trust the Eagles to be able to score more than the football team, even though they're both wild teams. And this will be huge they play each other now twice. So, I mean, it's not going to be said and done between these two teams, but I just trust the Eagles at home, and that's part of it too.
Yeah. That's kind of where I would go with that. And they're both physical teams. It'll be probably a slugfest, but Miles Sanders comes back healthy too. And there are just some elements to that I would give the advantage to Philly. With the Rams getting a win, that should make things very interesting because that would be win number 10 for them on the season. And then all of a sudden they're tied right there with the Cardinals, and all things are kind of thrown out the window in terms of how that division will pan out. So this should be a good next couple of days. We get treated to 2 games each of these days, and then no Wednesday or Friday, but Thursday, so we're off and running with a lot of football on a lot of days here coming up. So
we are.
Next week's show will be jam-packed once again. Looking forward to that one. Anything else, Mark, or we just ready to close it out?
No, sounds good to me. We will we'll have to just wait and see. It's crazy. We got football 2 games Monday, 2 games Tuesday, back on Thursday, and then we just keep rolling.
Do we have it Saturday this week as well?
Yeah, again? Christmas Day.
Yeah,
Packers,
Christmas Day. There you go.
I think there's 2 games. I think there's Packers. Is it Bills, Patriots, and Packers? I don't know. We'll look at it, but I'm pretty sure there's at least 2 games.
Yeah, it looks like 2 games. It's gonna be Browns at Packers, Colts at Cardinals on Saturday, Christmas Day.
Oh,
so yeah, okay. Browns Packers is the early window. Colts Cardinals is the evening, and so yeah, I mean that Colts Cardinals game will be interesting to watch. And obviously, interconference.
Thursday's Niners at Tennessee, so we got a lot of good games coming on up here.
Yeah, we might have a lot of information going into the Sunday slate already as to who needs to win and all this stuff. Yeah, that'll be enticing stuff right there.
It will
as we begin to close out the regular season. But all right, awesome. Well, it's Christmas week, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you back here next week. Hope your presents are great, and we will hopefully give you the gift that keeps on giving with the Football Lounge next Monday.